New day, new job, rear brakes on the K75. First of all, we're going to take the rear wheel off, and to do that, we need to keep it from spinning. You could put it in gear. I think that's probably a pretty common way to do it, but I kind of prefer to use the brakes and not put that extra load on any of the gearbox parts on a bike, just to be safe. It's easy enough to put a strap on like this. I do it to the lift, but you could also attach it to the center stand if you're not working with a lift. But now that wheel's blocked, and we can take the 4 bolts out. You need a pretty long, set with some leverage, because they're usually pretty tight. Okay, the wheel comes out just like that. Note that there's a little shim here. And on a K75, you can sneak the rear wheel out just like that. It's pretty cool. On a K100, which is everything else is the same on a K100, except you won't be able to do what I just did because the exhaust is much longer. And then it's easy enough to just take this rear fender off. There are 2 screws here that hold it on, and then additionally there's a couple of M6 or 10 millimeter nuts on the inside of the tool compartment, and you don't need to remove them, you just need to loosen them a bit, and then this thing just slides right off once you've loosened those screws and removed those bolts. This comes off, and then you can roll the wheel out the back on a K100. Okay, we don't need this anymore, and then we're going to get to the master cylinder reservoir is located underneath the side cover. It's right here. You can unclip it. And sort of bring it out where you can get to it like that. The hose goes down to the master cylinder. We want to get all the fluid out as much as we can, so we'll start by just sucking out of this. So I'm just going to give the brake pedal a couple of pumps just to sort of just move the brake fluid out. It should be evacuated by now. Just so we don't make a big mess taking these things apart. So now we've got the brake fluid more or less sucked out of the system, and then we can go about taking the components off. So there's a few things going on here. We got the brake caliper has to come off. We'll take the brake line off of it and remove the caliper. We need to then remove the brake disc, and then to get to the master cylinder, which is right here. In order to get better access to the master cylinder, which is right here, we'll probably be taking the Footpeg bracket off. But we'll start with the brake caliper and disc removal. All right, so first things first. While the caliper is still attached, is the perfect time to loosen the brake line. And a little bit of fluid still coming out, so I have a towel here to just can wrap that around so it doesn't make a big mess like that. Then we're going to take the caliper off, just like we did on the front wheels. It's really no different, except 8 millimeter Allen. And here's that same flange bolt like we had on the front, is on the front caliper bolt. That's the one that locates the caliper for the ABS sensor repeatability. So before actually taking the caliper off all the way, we need to get that ABS sensor off. If you just move it back like that, you've got much better access to the screws for the ABS sensor. So just if you're wondering what I'm doing here, I need to get down deep in there with a thin Torx wrench And this is what I've got to work with, is just a regular Torx wrench, but getting leverage on that, enough to break the screw loose, is kind of tough. I'll take a little box wrench like this, stick it on, and that gives me more leverage to turn a tool. And then at that point, you can just unscrew it by hand. So we got the same thing as the front, the stack of shims. Two of these little screws. This can just kind of hang there now until it's time to go back. Now the caliper comes off. And it's in every way identical to the caliper in the front. It uses the same parts and it's the same procedure to take this apart and rebuild it. The next step is to remove the brake disc. But actually, it's not should have been done earlier. I kind of made a mistake and took the brake apart. If I'd have left the caliper in place, ideally that's what I should have done. I should have broke these screws loose before taking the caliper off, because now the whole thing spins and it would have been just a lot easier. So if you're doing this, then swap it around. As soon as you get the wheel off, before you bleed the brakes out and take the caliper off, this is when you want to keep the rear wheel locked with the brake and work on getting the screws out. But I'm not going to go and put a valve back together again. At this point, we'll figure a way to get those screws out. It just ideally should have been done already, but hey, I forgot. So here we go. This could go real easy, and it could be a big pain in the butt, depending on how those screws are, but we're going to see what we can do. I think that we're going to try to, right out of the gate, apply some heat to there, because they are Loctited in for sure. So we want to get them warmed up, and then you need a 5mm Allen, a nice sharp one, to get in there and remove them. And then when I do break them loose, I'm going to anticipate what I'm going to do already now. Taking a screwdriver, putting it through the vent hole, and I can hold that with one hand while breaking the other one free. That's going to be my solution for this. I think it'll work. Let's give it a try. Oh yeah, look at that. Can we be that lucky a second time? See what happens. Oh yeah. Okay, so here we have the rear brake disc, and you see it's got a nice, well, not nice, but a deep ridge on it. It just really needs to be replaced. So good thing we're doing that. Same procedure we have here as we did with the front. We need to remove the ABS ring and install it on the new disc, which I have over on the workbench. So let's move over there and keep going with this. So same challenges we had on that right front disc. We got to get these 3 screws out, which I ended up drilling on the other one. I'm going to see if I can avoid that. Before we drill, we'll at least try to get them out the old-fashioned way. And so I've got my tools ready here, a nice sharp 3mm Allen, and I'm just going to try to heat them up a little bit, see if we can't get these things to come out. Not looking good. That one's starting to round. Try another one. Let's get that seated in like best we can, see what happens. Now, back to the drill.
Few moments later.
Okay, got those heads off of there. They're really hard steel, so it's kind of hard to drill. But now let's go ahead and try to get the off like we did. Still have my stuff from yesterday. Got a couple of different tools. This is a really cool thing. I don't know if I explained it yesterday, but it's a different size pieces for the press from Kuko. Pretty cool. This one's been used a lot, so it's a little bit tough to come apart, but you can stack them different ways. It's pretty neat. Like that. Okay, so this one's pretty tight on there. It's not coming off with, it's gonna need a little bit of heat. Heat that outer ring. Put this on a tray so I don't ruin my workbench even more. See what that did. Cool. Got it out without any damage. So might as well clean this one too in the vapor blaster, and then we'll put it back together with this brand new brake disc. Okay, nice and clean and ready for the unveiling of the new brake disc. Look at this beauty. All nicely wrapped. New bolts are included for attaching this to the final drive, which is great. But unfortunately, those 3 screws that we just drilled out aren't included, but we will come up with something there again. Just warm that up, drop it on, find some screws, keep going. So, good. I found the perfect little bolts. These are M5 by 12 little button heads, and these are going to work great. Conversely to the front disc, the holes are much closer to the ring, so we don't need to use a washer to bridge that. We're just going to be able to get by with just using the screw. So we'll put a little bit of Loctite on there. There we go, ready to put back on. Okay, moving right along, let's get to the master cylinder, which is down here. The easiest way to do that's going to be to take the Footpeg bracket off. So let's go ahead and do that. These are for the bag mounts. These 2 screws here. I almost got ahead of myself again. Before taking this off, it's a good idea right now to at least go down there, and there's the brake line that goes to the master cylinder, and you can still get a shot at it right now, and it's held in place by that bolt. At least break it loose, because it can be a little bit tight. So let's just put another bolt in there. There we go. So at least it's loose, so it'll be easy to take off. Okay, now we can proceed with this. So we have the brake hose here. We've got the rear brake switch. You can follow that up. This one's pretty easy to get to, so we'll just unplug it. Just plug right here and just pull that down through. Okay, there we have that, and now we can undo that brake line that we broke loose. Okay, and the last thing holding it in place is the hose for the master cylinder reservoir. Now, it's best to just remove it from the bike. Now, this hose is ideally it should be replaced. I don't have any at the moment, but it's plenty long. There's all kinds of slack. So what we're going to do at this point, so we can just get this over onto the workbench, is just go ahead and snip the hose off. There's plenty of length there, and we can replace that clamp. So there, like that. A special kind of hose. It's got a special blue rubber on the inside, and it's braided on the outside, but it's totally fine. We'll be able to replace this clamp too. So move it over to the workbench, take the rest of this all apart, and do the necessary repairs. So we're going to just remove the master cylinder from the footpeg bracket with these 2 screws, 5mm Allen. This pulls off like that. Okay, so we'll look at all this stuff in a bit. Okay, so there is the little critter. These are rebuildable, so let's see how that works out. This part that we snipped the hose off of, what we'll do is just cut that clamp. You can just cut it like this and remove it. There we go. And don't worry, we have a clamp to reinstall when we get to that point. So we're just gonna we'll be able to show you how to install one of these crimp clamps, which is pretty cool. Okay, so there's that. Now we'll have a look inside here. Boot off, and then there's this little pressure piece here, which we'll replace as well. All right, so we've got now the next thing you see is there's a little bolt here. So you need a 3mm Allen. Just slightly compress the piston and loosen this bolt. Remove it. Special little bolt, little nose on the end. We'll replace it, a new one comes in the kit. And now the master cylinder comes apart, see? That's what holds it all together. Now you can pull the piston out in its entirety like that. And now we can go in and clean this up in the solvent tank real quick, and then I'll have a look inside, and then we'll do the same procedure like we did on the front master cylinder. Just a moment. Looks good. It's actually not got any pitting, so that's a great thing. All right, this master cylinder looks really good. I can see by the date stamp on here that it was made in '03, so it's basically, what, 20 years old at this point, but it's not the original part, and it's survived beautifully, so it's great. But I am going to run that Scotch-Brite in there a little bit just to kind of break the glaze, and then put it back together with the new parts. The repair kit consists of these items. We'll go through it in a second. This is original Magura replacement parts. And we've got a brand new piston. Just, it's always a good idea to compare it to the old. Make sure that it's the same part. Looks very good. Okay, so we have that. We've got a new boot to replace the one that came out. And we've got a new screw and seal ring for that little screw that holds the whole mess together. And another packet of the super groovy Magura brake parts grease. But we still have some from yesterday, so I'm just going to use that, save that for another day. Okay, so this is all super cool, looking good, and we'll put a little bit of this special grease on there. So holding the piston compressed against the spring tension, we can put that new screw in there with the supplied seal ring. There we go, just like new. Alrighty. Okay, the little pressure piece that came out when we took the master cylinder apart behind the boot is, these do wear, and they're a good idea to replace them. So I am going to do that. It's optional, but it's not really a bad idea to replace it. So there's a little O-ring on there that gets a little bit of that grease as well on here, and that fits right down inside like here, like that. So that's the pressure point. Grease on there too. And now you take that new boot and put that on, and then that's all ready to reinstall. If you have a little sort of hook tool, that works great to just sort of get that over the lips of the master cylinder. That. Kind of work it around. Okay, kind of a fiddly little thing to get on, but there it is. Okay, so this is all good to go. Now we can look back at this again and putting it back together. All right, so now we can put this master cylinder back on to the footpeg bracket, like so. Okay, now ideally this boot, yes, it's now right into position, so that's good. So that's it. By the way, this is the brake light switch. It's a little micro switch. Pretty reliable. Okay, so let's put this back on. Alrighty, now we'll put it all back together again, and I've got a new crimp clamp here. It's a 12.3 is the size. We can slip that onto the hose. I think we can. And then slide that on there like so. And then this clamp will slide right into place. Now you could use, I guess, a hose clamp, but what's really cool about these crimp clamps is they just don't take up any real space on there. And tool is just something like this, which is a fairly common sort of tool, really. Just set that on there like that. And that's it, clamped. Okay, so we're going to watch the routing of this here. There's a little ground strap here, remember to connect that back or get that back lined up when you put the bolts in. Okay, just reattaching the saddlebag bracket. It's basically putting everything back together we took apart. Okie dokie. We got some brand new crush rings for the banjo bolt. Which attaches to the master cylinder. Okie dokie. Now we can route this back up like that. All right, I'm going to leave this out for right now because it'll be easier to get to when we do the brake bleeding process. All right, now that we got the master cylinder sorted out, we'll do the caliper. This is identical to what we did on the front calipers. It's actually pretty much the same part. In any case, it uses the same exact repair kits. The only difference is that the rear brake does call for a different brake pad than the front. And so it's a different part number. It's the same physical size, but has different friction characteristics. So that's the only difference. Other than that, it's identical. All right, so it occurs to me that there is a difference between this caliper and the ones on the front, and that difference is the way that they put it together in terms of the bleeder line. So what we've been doing, what we did on the front is we put air pressure in here to force the piston out. So on one half, it's going to work fine. On the other half, we're going to have to see how that works out. So let's start with the one we know is going to work. We hope, at least, it will. So pressing that down to keep air in. Watch your fingers. And it pushed it out. Nice. So that's that one. On this one, we don't have the ability to do it quite like that, but I think that we can just get that from the bottom here. So this one's got 2 O-rings. There's one there. There's one there. Leave that one in. Press down on that. And then come up from the bottom. Right there. Let's see if this works out. Nope, that worked. So that's all, no big deal. Just have to do it a different way. Okay. Last time I took those seal rings out in the solvent tank, but I'll do it here just to show you how that works. You see a little hook pick sort of tool. Just get in there and grab those seals out of there like that. Just like that. And then stick this one in like so, and that off to the cleaning tank, and then we'll reassemble. So I got these all cleaned up, and the pistons are in very good condition. Everything looks good, so just bolt it back together just like the other two. All right, let's put this shiny new brake disc on there. It's all ready to go. But the brake disc is supplied with new screws and the Loctite's already put on. So all we got to do is put them in and tighten them down. So we can use that same trick to hold the disc as we did when we took it apart. That seems to work pretty well, actually. And then tighten to 21 Newton meters. Now we can put that caliper back up on there, like so. And just like we took it apart, it was a great time to put that ABS sensor in, so we're not doing all kinds of crazy contortions. And so we got the ABS sensor, which I will just clean off a little bit. The shib is back on. Now we can slide that back into where it goes. Okay, we'll leave that one kind of loose to start with, and then it's that shouldered bolt that we had in the front on ABS models that locates the exact position of the caliper. There's also a little bracket in there that holds the ABS sensor wire kind of in a safe spot. So make sure you get that hooked back up again, and then put that all together. Okay, 25 Newton meters. Okay, so that's that. Now we can reattach the hose using new seal rings, of course. Next thing we're going to do is bleed the brakes and get a pedal back on this thing. Then we can do the rear wheel, torque the bolts, and move on from there. So let's get our stuff ready here. Give the brake a pump once in a while, just make sure that the fluid is flowing through the master cylinder, and basically going down, you're just filling up the line. You just want to try not to let it suck air, because then you have to kind of start over again. Okay, so now we'll take some out of the ABS unit. So when I pump it up and you start to feel the pedal, everything's working. But just for kicks, we're going to do a little bit more after that and make sure we get all the air bubbles out. Cool, that's got a nice solid feel. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so and we'll just give a little splash here, and then we'll put the cap back on. We can tuck that guy right back in his little clip there. Okay, let's get the rear wheel on. Okay, remember that you need the shim can fall off, so make sure it's there before you put the wheel on. Okay, it's just going to basically snug these bolts down so everything gets in the right position without any outside influence. And then we're going to put that strap back on the rear brake lever. The torque to 100 newton meters, 75 foot-pounds in a cross pattern. Okay, so that's bueno. I think it's test ride time. Well, okay, so now you see it. You can change the brakes, rebuild the calipers, rebuild the master cylinders. It's really not that hard. Now you know how to do it. We've got all the parts that you need. You'll find them at boxer2valve.com and wunderlichamerica.com. Well, why do we have two websites? Well, if you don't know, the reason is because the Boxer 2 Valve is primarily about the older air-cooled twins, where on our Wunderlich site we cater to more of the modern bikes. Well, the K models, they fit like smack dab in the middle. So they don't really gravitate to one or the other. So we have them on both websites. And that way, there's a couple ways you can find parts for your K75 K100 for the older 2 valves. And hopefully this has been helpful for you to see how you can do this. Really, a lot of the stuff we did applies to other motorcycles, regardless of brand. It's all kind of the same stuff. But anyway, hope you had a good time. I sure did. Got to get my hands dirty again, which is what I love. And my name is William, and I hope to see you soon again at the next video. In the meantime, keep the shiny side up.